Hi everyone, welcome to this new edition of Color with me. Today I'm showing you this paint by number that I did. It actually took me about 5 hours, so you're getting the time-lapse version of it. And this was also, I think, one of my first experiences with acrylic paint. So I also want to go ahead and read to you from this book that came with the set, Star Wars: The Defining Moments. I was very impressed that this was from author Jason Fry. I've read quite a few of his books and they're usually very informative. So first here is the introduction. For many people, Star Wars has always existed. At some point, usually in childhood, they're introduced to a galaxy of dogfighting, spaceships, strange aliens, and humming lightsabers. Afterward, many are never quite the same. It was a difficult experience for the old guard, for those of us who remember the world without Star Wars. We remember gaping at the endless expanse of Star Destroyer's belly over Tatooine, and gasping in the theater when Luke Skywalker's duel with Darth Vader took a shocking turn. We remember how Star Wars changed everything. Star Wars brought us previously unimagined spectacle from special effects wizards and taught us that summer meant big tentpole movies. It helped make those things part of our world. But that's not why fans, new ones and old alike, love Star Wars stories. Star Wars brought back stories that were new but somehow felt like they'd been around forever, which in a way they had. They were simple tales of good and evil, but tales where the lines between them blurred. Action-packed stories that drew on a deep well of antecedents, westerns and space operas, war movies and fantasy novels, fairy tales and myths. From 1977 through 1983, we devoured the 3 chapters of George Lucas's saga. We met characters who became icons and saw them face challenges that have become cultural metaphors. Here are 10 unforgettable moments from those first 3 chapters set a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Next page here, page 6, has the paint by number instructions. I don't think you need to know that along with the tips and techniques. Now here, page 8, message from a princess. So this is what you're viewing now. At the beginning of Episode 4, A New Hope, Princess Leia's starship is captured above Tatooine by Darth Vader's Star Destroyer and invaded by stormtroopers. Knowing she'll be captured, Leia hides the stolen Death Star plans in her R2D2's memory banks and records an urgent message for the droid to take to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Leia doesn't know it, but her desperate gambit is about to change the fate of the galaxy, starting with the life of a farm boy living in lonely obscurity on the planet below. Luke Skywalker is a hero right out of a fairy tale. The good-hearted peasant boy struck in the middle of nowhere who turns out to have a grand destiny ahead of him. Luke dreams of joining the Imperial Academy and seeing the galaxy, but his dreams keep getting put off for more than a year by the demands of his uncle's farm. All that changes when R2D2 arrives, and Luke winds up captivated by a mysterious snippet of Leia's message. "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope." He triggers in the family garage. The genius of that moment is that it simultaneously draws on mythic journeys from ancient storytelling and is something everyone in the audience can relate to. On the one hand, what happens to Luke fits perfectly with Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces, the comparative mythology tome George Lucas acknowledged as an influence. I had decided that there was no modern mythology. The Western was the last American mythological genre, and there had not been anything since then, Lucas had said. I wanted to take all the old myths and put them into a new format that young people could relate to. From the perspective of myth, R2's message marked the intrusion of another, larger world, both richer and more dangerous, into the closed-off existence of the farm. This is the call to adventure for Luke, and the grainy image of a princess in white is heralded. But the storytelling works equally well on another simpler level. Luke is a teenager who feels trapped. He is certain that he wasn't meant for the dull life on Tatooine, that he belongs somewhere more exciting. His aunt and uncle mean well, but they don't understand that they're holding him back. He has to get free from them, but how? After arguing with his uncle at the dinner table, Luke storms outside and stares into the twin sunset. He's surrounded by the trappings of science fiction. Two suns instead of one. An alien landscape, droids, and fantastic machinery, but none of that matters in explaining why that moment has become an iconic one. The moment works because every teenager knows exactly what Luke is feeling. Every former teenager remembers a moment like it, and every teen-to-be senses they'll experience something similar all too soon. You don't have to read Joseph Campbell to understand that, or to grasp the message that Princess Leia hid inside R2D2 means for Luke. Destiny is calling him, bringing the promise of a ticket off the farm and warning that everything is finally about to change. Now on to page 12. This is a wretched hive of scum and villainy. Ben Kenobi warns Luke Skywalker that the Mos Eisley Cantina can be a little rough. And indeed, within the space of a few minutes, two alien thugs pick a fight with Luke. Ben cuts them down with his lightsaber. Stormtroopers wade through the crowd in search of Luke and Ben, and a luckless bounty hunter ends up slumped dead over a table. No wonder the bartender looks grumpy. Every Western needs a ramshackle bar where strangers get the stink eye instead of a warm welcome. The bartender knows when to duck, and only fools sit with their backs to the door. Mos Eisley Cantina is filled with aliens of every shape and size, though, in an odd bit of prejudice, no droids. But only one of the patron even gets a name, Greedo, the green alien gunned down by Han Solo. Who are the rest of the intergalactic barflies? As Star Wars evolved from surprise space fantasy hit to worldwide touchstone, the Cantina's day drinkers acquired names, extensive backstories, and even their own short anthology. The band playing Benny Goodman-style swing? In the late 1980s, fans learned that they're the model nodes, led by a compulsive gambler friggin' Dan. The haughty guy drawing a hookah at the bar? In 1995, he was revealed as Danik Jericho, a centuries-old vampire whose cheeks hide proboscis that drain victims of their soup. The serpentine creature across the table from a beheaded lizard? Meet Dice Ibgan, a Force-sensitive scout for the Rebel Alliance. She later fought on Hoth alongside Lax Cervec, the wolf man replaced for A New Hope special edition by that lizard, whose name Ketwal. Dice lied Lack piloted an X-Wing at Endor, and when he died, they both became Force ghosts. So said a 1995 short story. Some of that material was developed as part of the expanded universe. It is now considered legends and therefore non-canon, but all of it was invented long after the cantina scenes were filmed, and in 1976 and 1977, first at Elstree Studios in England, and then at reshoots in Los Angeles. Back then, the cantina patrons only had on-set nicknames. Dice Ibgun was Snakehead. The guy with the devil horns was Louie. A pursed mouth alien was Don Rickles. Some of those names, though not Don Rickles unfortunately, entered Star Wars lore when Kenner released action figures of Greedo, Snaggletooth, Walrus Man, and Hammerhead, with the last two names scribed from the patron's notes. You may remember Hammerhead wore an awesome blue space onesie. In 1978, with an eye on future possibilities, Lucasfilm created names and species for some of the key aliens. Greedo's species, known on set as the Martians, became Grafties. The snake puppet character named Nake, while Hammerhead was called Amhara. But the memo got lost. The barflies' identities were reinvented, sometimes multiple times. Luke's attackers are grubby human and creatures in the Star Wars script, Rufo and Saki in the radio drama, and they eventually became known as Dr. Avazan and Ponda Baba. Wait, Evskin was a doctor? In the late 80s version of his backstory, yes, he went insane and began disfiguring patients and was disfigured himself by a bounty hunter. Ponda Baba rescued him, and the two smuggled spice for Jabba the Hutt, earning the doctor a death sentence in 12 systems, which he warned Luke about. And maybe so. Perhaps the cantina was filled with rebel sympathizers, ancient vampires, and insane surgeons. That's a certain point of view, as they say. Maybe those intergalactic booze hounds had less interesting tales. Maybe Rufo, or Avazan, whatever his name was just a little bully with a big mouth who picked on a kid and an old man who looked like easy prey. And maybe most of the cantina patrons were much of the same, down on their luck and watched over a very wary bartender who's given up enforcing the rules, except no droids and no blasters. Sometimes, after all, a barfly is just a barfly. So, that's as far as I'm going to read today. I want to thank everyone for watching. Okay, bye.